and you do what kind of karaoke?
Great. So I usually do rap songs when I'm doing karaoke. Most people don't expect it.
No. Do you have a standard one that you always have to do? That you're
Humble by Kendrick Lamar is probably the one that I do the most.
Okay.
I like doing Cardi B, Bodak Yellow right now. I'm doing that a lot. And then if I'm competing, it'll either be like Eminem's Rap God or Look at Me Now, Busta Rhymes and Chris Brown, all them.
You're listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast, where we uncover inspiring things about our community through the stories of inspiring people who call it home. I am Dee Harrell, and this is the creator of Oh My Omaha, the blog, and the blogosphere's friendliest face herself, Kim Reiner.
Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Oh My Omaha, the podcast. Dee is not in the studio today. She is out on a shoot, so it's just lonesome me, which is too bad because we've got a funny guy in the studio who likes karaoke just like Dee, so it's too bad. It's her jam, but we'll get through it today. So I will just jump right in and introduce our guest, Dylan Rohde, correct?
Yes,
Dylan
correct,
Rohde is the owner of Backline Comedy Theatre and the founder and co-artistic director of Omaha Comedy Fest. He's a Sioux City native with a degree in theater who spent 6 years in Hollywood learning improv and sketch comedy. He moved to Omaha in 2011 to start teaching improv, which he continues today. And actually, he goes overseas, and he's actually taught improv in other countries. So it's great to have you in the studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think we covered everything. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
That's the first episode ever. So I've been to Backline. It's been a long time, but when we went, my husband and I were just impressed with, it was a very affordable, entertaining night out, and we've told people about it over the years. But for people who aren't familiar with Backline Comedy Theater, what is it?
Okay, so basically I call it just a home for comedy in Omaha. So any type of comedy, if it's a funny show, we try having it at Backline. So whether it's improvisation, it's stand-up, it's sketch, it's musical acts, we have all sorts of different types of shows.
Fantastic.
So if it's happening in comedy, we want it there. Both shows and classes. So we, not a lot of people maybe realize, but we have a really good local scene, and that has required years of training and getting people ready for that kind of stuff. A lot of cities don't have as much of that kind of training grounds for people. So
I've known a couple people who've done improv classes there.
Yeah.
And not just, sometimes for just a hobby or kind of they want to see what if they could do it. And others, I knew a news reporter who did it to help her just be on air more.
Nice. Was it Lindsay Thies?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, she's out in California, I think, now or something.
Yeah. So she always told me I should do it. Just back in the day when I was in PR, and I just don't know if I had the stage presence.
A lot of people are so intimidated, and the number one thing we always hear is I could never do improv.
Right.
But we all do it every day. Nobody has a script.
Right. This is true. It's true. Yeah. I had my oldest son is almost 15. And he took an improv class, a couple of them, and it's been great for him because he enjoys speaking in front of people, but now he's kind of a snob where he doesn't want to do anything scripted. And I'm like, you have, you're confident. Why didn't you try out for a play or something? And he's just like, it's not improv.
Yeah, I used to do theater, and the idea of going back to a script would be tough for me. Yeah.
And you mentioned, I was reading your bio, and you do some stand-up, right?
Yeah.
And which is harder, stand-up or improv?
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah. But for you, is it?
I certainly find it easier to improvise, but I think stand-up used to give me a lot of nerves, even though I've been on stage for my whole life. To being up there by myself and having stuff that I wrote in advance that hopefully was going to make people laugh was pretty intimidating. So for me, it was a little bit more. Also the same way with karaoke, though. I used to be so scared. I guess I probably chased that anxiety a little more than I should.
Right. And now it's easy.
Yeah, I mean, I still get a little nervous doing stand-up and stuff. I don't do it a lot, but I just went on the road and I did a show in Austin, and that's a big city for comedy right now. Yeah. So I was feeling a little intimidated there, but it went well, and I had a good time, and I want to do the road more.
Cool. So tell me about Omaha Comedy Fest and how that idea came about.
Great. Yeah. So technically we started a festival before Omaha Comedy Fest. So we had what was called Omaha Comedy Week, where I had gotten a group of folks together, the different stand-ups, and there used to be a page or a paper called Omaha Hype at the time, or like an online newspaper. And I had gathered all them together to put together this thing. But then in our second year, everyone fought, and it got ruined. So that same year, I started Omaha Improv Fest, which was just improvisation shows. And it went really well. And we got some of like the nation's top teachers to come in and do some stuff of improv. And from there, we just kept doing it. And then slowly we started adding stand-up and sketch. And now it's just all comedy.
Cool. So that's coming up, right? It
is next weekend. Or September. I don't know when this is out, but September 26th through the 29th.
It'll be this weekend. Then, is it in one venue, or is it over around the city, or?
So it's either at Backline, which is downtown, or the rest of the shows are up in Benson.
Okay.
This year. So we've got the Benson Theater, we've got Reverb Lounge, and the Sydney.
Oh, cool. And for tickets, is this like buy for one show, or is it buy one ticket, you can go to any of the venues, or how does that work?
We have a couple options. We have a pass. You can get like a pass to like all regular shows. You can go see the headlining shows. You can buy individually if you just want to go see one ticket. For the most part, that's what most people do. But we also have workshops as well. So if you're interested in learning from some of these people from around the country, our major shows that we recommend are like Beth Stelling, who's doing stand-up. She has a Netflix special out, and I definitely recommend seeing her. And then Epic Rap Battles of History, which some folks who maybe, I don't know if it's maybe more of a nerdy thing, but it's not the coolest of rap, but it's a bit nerdy, but it's fun. Cool. They do like, they rap as historical characters and stuff like that. So
is that all improvised, or do they have?
That's all written.
And they'll do that. Impressive.
Yeah.
They can just off the cuff do that. But that'd be kind of fun to see. Are these shows mainly, geared toward adults, or?
Yes. Okay. All the venues are either going to be 18 and up or 21 and up.
Okay, perfect. Let's see here.
We do have one kid's show, actually. Okay. Where is that at? I think it's at it's at its own venue, just because it's a kid's show where the other stuff isn't. But I want to say it's at Legend Comics, but I could be wrong on that. I think it's at Legend Comics. So.
Yeah, because my kids they're teens now, and they're starting to get into comedy. But some shows just either jokes will go over their head and it doesn't matter, or like, okay, probably shouldn't have taken them to the show. But it's cool to watch, at least for my kids, to watch their sense of humors develop. And you had written that you were influenced a little bit, or you watched SNL when you were younger.
Yeah.
What would you say favorite skits of all time of a Saturday Night Live?
Oh, from Saturday Night Live specifically. That's a good question. I guess I was a big fan of the Van Down by the River sketch when I was younger. I used to watch that so many times. I liked, I don't know if I had like one clear one. I watched a lot. I would say it's easier to pick in other shows, just because maybe it's easier to pick like per cast of SNL, but it's a little hard for me to think of like one specific one that had a big inspiration.
Do you have a favorite cast? Like, what cast do you think had the best?
I have to imagine most people pick their favorite cast from when they're young, but probably. I'll say if not that era with Chris Farley and them, then I did also really like the cast with like Bill Hader and Amy Poehler and them. I thought that was a really legendary cast.
Do you watch other sketch comedy shows, or?
Yeah. So I think You Should Leave right now is one of the biggest sketch shows. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Have you heard of it?
I have vaguely heard of it.
Yeah.
I feel like
you've probably seen like some memes and stuff because it's everywhere. People don't always realize it, but I think You Should Leave is a great sketch show. It's on Netflix. They have 3 seasons out already.
Okay.
Key and Peele was a big one for me. Chappelle Show. Monty Python when I was younger as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel old now.
That's all right. No,
I wasn't old enough to
age ourselves on the
experience
show.
Monty Python. I was definitely after it, but I definitely loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. So you say you're into karaoke,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking right before the show went on, and you do what kind of karaoke?
Great. So I usually do rap songs when
Rap
I'm doing
songs.
karaoke.
right.
Most people don't expect it. When they see me
No.
go out
Do you have a standard one that you always have to do? That you're
Humble by Kendrick Lamar is probably the one that I do the most.
okay.
I like doing Cardi B, Bodak Yellow right now. I'm doing that a lot. And then if I'm competing, it'll either be like Eminem's Rap God or Look at Me Now,
Okay.
Busta Rhymes and Chris Brown, all them.
Do you have what are your go-to places in Omaha for karaoke?
For karaoke?
Yeah.
Down Under's been one of my main ones for a long time. They have it on Sunday and Tuesday, and they usually have a good-sized crowd and a good group of singers there and stuff like that. I like going places where the talent's better. So
Yeah.
when I'm experiencing karaoke, it's not just a bunch of bad singers and then going up there. I like going up where like almost everyone's good.
Okay.
Which can kind of turn people away if they're not good. But personally, like as someone who loves karaoke, I want the experience to be as good as possible. So
So are you going for just kind of the wow factor? People aren't expecting you to go up there and rap, or do you have a little choreography to it to kind of get like a laugh? I mean, since you're
sure.
in comedy, what's the...
I'm trying to get better at moving while I'm on stage. As I mentioned before, the nerves would get me so bad that I just had to stand there still and just say it into the mic. I'm getting more comfortable moving around, walking around, doing a little dancing. I don't dance a lot, but it's nice. The audience likes to see a little movement up there, so I try to give them that. I'm not funny typically in karaoke, so sometimes I will be. When I'm doing Kendrick Lamar, the Humble song, I really love to point at people in the crowd and tell them to sit down. The crowd loves that part of it, and so I'll usually pick like the biggest dude, or something, and like tell him to sit down. It's a pretty fun thing. So I've gotten one person to be mad at me and kind of chase me around a little bit, but otherwise.
part of it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like comedy, or not comedy, but rap, like, or karaoke battles or like competitions. Are there competitions in Omaha? Like I am
For karaoke?
Yeah, I am out of that scene. Like I said, I'm a horrible singer.
Yeah.
So I try to steer clear of it.
There used to be a really big citywide one before the pandemic. They tried to bring it back after, and it was too soon, and it just didn't work, and bars weren't getting enough people. So,
Yeah.
But they used to do. Grand prize would be $1,000.
Oh.
I got third place with $700. I was pretty happy with that for citywide.
Yeah, that's not too
Considering I was the only one who was doing rap music. Usually karaoke competitions, no one makes it to the finals with rap music. It was a really cool thing to have had in Omaha. It's a shame there's no more, but there's still some like small competitions. The last one I went into, I didn't do very well, and I was working on a new song, and I haven't really done that song since. I kind of gave up because I didn't do well at the competition. But
That's too bad. So what else do you do besides comedy and rap?
I don't know if it's besides. I'm working on an animated series, which is like, it's just part of ADHD. I got to do a little bit of everything rather than a lot of one thing. So I had 3 episodes that I did all myself, and I've been stuck now trying to get them out there to a studio.
So you animate them yourself too, like writing? Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
It was a lot.
That would take a long time. Are they kind of how long?
3.5 minutes each.
Wow.
Yeah. So each one took me about a year.
Oh gosh. Okay.
And not like full time or anything,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of time to dedicate to 3.5 minutes each.
Are they out there? Are they?
Yeah,
you can
they're on
see them, or-
YouTube. You
Okay.
can look them up. Troglobites.
Okay.
Troglobites. They're basically, it's a name for creatures that live in caves, basically.
Okay.
With the idea of like, so if they're salamanders or spiders, they're usually smaller versions. They're like translucent. They live longer. And I thought, well, what if they were human troglobites, right? And then I started thinking about like what they would look like, what they would be, and I started thinking, what if they did exist, and they're like what people think of or like people see them and think of aliens, or see them and think of other monsters or cryptids. And so the whole premise of the show is each episode is them getting mistaken for different cryptids and monsters.
Okay.
So the first one's alien, second one's the chupacabra, third one is vampires, and the fun is kind of justifying how far away I can get from anything that looks like a small little person and justify it as something else. So, like, for instance, if I ever get to my Sasquatch episode, I want 3 of them in a hairsuit, you know?
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you self-taught for animation?
For animating? Yeah, sure am.
Okay.
Yeah. You can kind of see it as you go through the episodes. I get a little better every episode.
Okay. That's how, like, most episodes, like, the animation changes and evolves, and that's cool. Let's get back to, like, comedy and improv teaching.
Sure.
I'm interested to hear about you've taught overseas. You've been invited to.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So this year I went to Nepal, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Everyone's first question is, there's improv in Nepal?
Yeah.
Which there was not. So, a guy who lived in a city, Pokhara, there wanted to invite a bunch of improvisers from around the world to basically help bring improv to Pokhara. So we went there teaching some workshops and stuff and doing shows. And while there, I really wanted to do something that would last longer. So I got a group of the people that were in the workshops and started teaching them to do a show. So we got them ready to do a show, and they did 2 shows to the public before I left.
Awesome. Do you know if it's kind of grown at all since you were there?
I don't think it's really grown. I think they're sitting a bit static.
Kind of underground?
Yeah, but I think without more people coming there regularly, they might have a hard time getting that out. But they had a really good group, so I'm hoping. I've been trying to get them to even do like Zoom coaching so I can kind of keep working on it with them. But yeah, I think improv isn't necessarily big there yet. Yeah. But yeah, I've done Taiwan, and I went to I got to do some improv in Amsterdam. I taught up in Canada, in Montreal, and Australia. Oh yeah, I got to teach at 2 different cities in Australia and do shows there. So,
have you learned anything yourself while you're in these other countries?
I do. Yeah, I think I try to take something back each time. There's always something I'm learning about people doing things differently. American improv is very different than improv overseas.
Okay.
So we're definitely more comedic based here, where you might find a little bit more dramatic improv in certain places, especially more Europe and Australia, which it seems a little weird to us.
Right. I'm like, so the point of the show is not necessarily to get the biggest laugh. It's to just to like tell a story, or what is it?
I don't know. I don't understand it. They told me while I was in Australia, a number of people were like, I would prefer it if no one laughed in my show. And I go, I would hate that. I would absolutely hate it if no one laughed in my improv show.
So how does that work as an American improviser, working with somebody who has that perspective? Like, what's the scene like?
I'd say there's usually a good amount of people who want to learn more about the comedy.
Okay.
There are the people who like and are fine staying in that dramatic end, but I think generally when people, or at least when Americans go over there and specifically to teach comedic improv, the people who like it attach to it. Some people are like, I'm fine. Yeah. And then some people I think just have kind of we're a little too cocky about certain things, especially improv. So they don't always want to hear our point of view because they think they're doing it right, and they think we're going to tell them they're wrong, and they don't want to hear that.
Right. Okay. Do you try to go see any, like, shows while you're there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm there for either, like, festivals or something, so I'm usually seeing shows while I'm there.
Any memorable ones that...
Yeah.
Like
I just saw, so in Nepal, we didn't have a lot of traditional venues that we might have here. So one of the shows, we went out into a rural village and we performed on a patio to like 30 locals in the village.
Okay.
old people, children, everything. And shouldn't say we. I did not do it. But there was a clown from Japan at this festival, and I loved it. It was a great show. And I learned a lot from there from him in general that I've been trying to include into my stuff. Especially, I found it really helpful towards my stand-up.
Okay.
Clowning in general is something that we don't have much here in Omaha, but it's growing in the big cities. So if you're in LA, New York, Chicago, Austin, Portland, Denver, they're doing clowning already. And I'm trying to get it here. The clown I just mentioned, I think he's going to come here next summer and teach some workshops. But I want to get a little bit more into that clowning world. I think clowning is something I used to be like, why would I ever want to be a clown? But there's a lot of good teaching in it that I think people are getting stuff out of now, and it's something different.
Do they do clowning? Is that at like similar like a comedy venue, or where do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are they just like in the lineup among other comedians, and then?
I think it's like a whole show usually, or like at least a set, kind of like a longer set. There's one guy who's kind of a big deal that I've been trying to get out here. He does his clowning show with Rory Scovel, who is a stand-up comedian. And he doesn't wear like a red nose or anything like that. Right. The clown I know in Japan wears a red nose, but like he just his shows are a bit more different. I've only seen the videos, so I haven't seen them in person.
I have to look into this. This is interesting.
Yeah,
the clowning is.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's making a comeback or is it just starting.
The thing I loved watching that one in Nepal was the guy. He spoke Japanese most, then some English. But basically no Nepalese, or Nepali. So he did his entire show just going off of anything they said, and he would like figure out the words they're saying based on how they'd react to stuff. And he didn't know any of the language, but he was just repeating things they'd say when he'd ask, like point at them and like point at something. And he'd figure some stuff out and some stuff he wouldn't, like what a phone is, and stuff like that. It was a very unique and fun show because he was able to make those 30 people laugh without speaking their language, and they laughed that entire
That's impressive,
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a skill or a talent to be able to do that. Transcend language barriers. Yeah. That's cool. I'll have to look into it. Like if you do bring in the Japanese clown, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Let me see what else I got here for you. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't mention? Like we talked about Comedy Fest and Backline. Any places that you want to shout out, or like people you want, maybe local comedians that you want the audience to know about, or
something I'd really like to mention, especially this is part of the festival as well. I've been working on a show that's like our own version of Wild 'N Out. As I said, I like hip hop. So, and if you're unfamiliar, are you familiar with Wild 'N Out? It's kind of like Nick Cannon's show it's like kind of like some short form improv games like Who's Line, but it's also a lot of hip hop games.
Oh, okay.
So they're like freestyling and stuff like that. And since we're going to have Epic Lloyd out from Epic Rap Battles of History, we also have some other guests like Matt Geiler, who folks might know in Omaha, and a rapper from Denver. She's coming along too. And so we're doing our show Getting Rowdy, which is what it's called, at the festival at Backline. So if you want to see like a Wild 'N Out style show here in Omaha, we've ran it. We've just been running it a few times as we're getting ready for this fest, and it's a lot of fun, and the crowd really digs it. Awesome. So if you like hip hop, you like live comedy, that is a show that you should definitely not miss.
So with our podcast, we ask all of our guests the same question, and it's, where do you find inspiration in Omaha?
That's great. I'm a bit of a nature fan, so I like to go out to places by myself. So I might go up into NP Dodge or Hummel Park, or I'll go down to the riverfront and just sort of walk around by myself, stare out at the river. Those are usually places that I like to just think.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Are you a hiker, or are you just kind of, you like to just
Just a walker.
Yeah. like I enjoy hiking, but I'm not like backpacking or going out for long hikes. But I like Hummel, especially like this fall. And during the fall is like a great time to be out there. And
I'm not much for like climbing rocks or anything like that, but I like a good walk.
Yeah.
In nature. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing some comedy coming up. So
thanks. Everyone should come check out some comedy.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast. We want to thank our guest, Hurrdat Media, all of you for your support, and the Omaha community at large.
So from Dee and I, keep on exploring.